The California IPv6 Task Force and the North American IPv6 Task Force was the vision of Jim Bound. And one thing that Jim had said to me and why I started with him is a function of the problem we're addressing and the advocacy that we're trying to initiate with IPv6. gogoNET 6 has been a great new partner for us in the social networking aspect of IPv6. It solved one of the biggest problems that we had, which was engagement of IPv6 amongst those that were in internet service communities, were in enterprise as well as in government, and the population at large. More importantly, the California IPv6 Task Force and North American IPv6 Task Force had a very interesting vision of advocacy. And we attempted for a number of years between 2009 and 2000 and present day to advocate IPv6. Jim had mentioned to me, I recall, I think about 3, maybe 4 years ago, when we were struggling to get our enterprise constituents, our government constituents, interested in V6, as service providers had been thinking about the problem for some time. And Dr. Vince Cerf had mentioned many years ago as well about the issue of moving from the 32-bit address space to the 128-bit address space. And I think very interestingly, Jim said to me, when we were struggling to get people involved in some of our projects, he says, what happened to the old days when we could just get these engineers together in a room and we would attack a problem and it would just, people wouldn't worry about politics, people wouldn't worry about challenges, it would just get done. This is the reason the task force exists, is because that was Jim's vision, and that's what we continue to do. And the goal is to solve the problem of getting us together in a room physically to talk about IPv6 initiatives, as well as to get our hands into these kinds of environments, which, in my experience, service providers have been doing a great job of understanding what needs to be done, maybe struggling with a little bit as to why enterprises and other entities are not adopting as quickly as we would have liked them to. So with that, the California IPv6 Task Force will get started. As Ed had mentioned, George Usi, I am the chair of the California IPv6 Task Force. I am also the program manager for the North American IPv6 Task Force. Those roles were both originated around the advocacy as well as assisting deployment and special interest groups within the town of Sacramento primarily, which is where the California IPv6 Task Force began. Of course, understanding how California IPv6 Task Force fits into the mold here. When NAV6TF, so I'll spare you having to go through the extension of the entire name, was initiated, we were essentially a group of a mailing list and a consolidation or a collaboration of individuals with different talents: engineering, project management, and folks that just understood what was coming with V6. We have since blossomed into what is now represented, and I think we had do we have a laser pointer up here? I know this slide may be a little bit difficult for you to see, but what we have here is the Canadian IPv6 Task Force, Northwest IPv6 Task Force, California IPv6, so on and so forth across the country. The most active task force chapters range from California to Rocky Mountain, as well as activity in Mid-Atlantic. So here are some of the logos of those other task force initiatives. Oops. Sorry. The goal of each of these entities is to expand on Jim's vision of gathering these engineers together, whether they be blossoming new students, existing network engineers that are young and eager to embrace V6 in the enterprise or the service provider environment, and then of course us old fogies who are at the tail end of our generation, or the beginning of a generation that was able to initiate our first experience with the internet perhaps in the 90s. I would represent part of that group. I wasn't necessarily much of a computer guy growing up, but we're seeing a lot more young folks that, and if you think about it today, those who have graduated in recent years had internet connectivity via dial-up when they were 4. So it's amazing how things have changed. So these new task forces that are starting up include the Northwest, Midwest, and Southeast. Our objective is to recruit members who are interested in the different types of events such as this collaborative with gogoNET, as well as other types of regional labs and environments. The California IPv6 Task Force is an example of some progress that's been made within the region of California. Primarily, those efforts have been in the Sacramento area. We did a fantastic job between 2000 and 2009 educating our leaders regionally, working closely with Congressman Lundgren to talk about what IPv6 was in the 3rd District, talking directly to Governor Schwarzenegger's staff on a number of occasions to explain to them what IPv6 is about and how it might impact enterprises as they adopt it, and then the pending adoption within service provider environments. We published papers collaboratively on IPv6 adoption together with UNHIOL, University of New Hampshire, have also been able to do some labs and experiments with IPv6 tunneling to our data center in West Sacramento, where we actually have 3 racks of lab equipment testing primarily for the government entities that are, the state agencies, I should say, that are within the Sacramento footprint. And then we have also been able to establish, I'd say, about 2,000 contacts of engineers in our area. The challenge is that our area was defined primarily as Sacramento. And Ed, who so graciously introduced me, is part of the effort to create a sort of subchapter of the California IPv6 Task Force here in the Bay Area. He is my co-chair, and we are also looking at a Southern California entity looking for someone to run the advocacy in that area, and primarily running different types of events, working other events to do simple presentations to recruit members. As far as our representatives, Jeff Lambert, who was originally supposed to present today, was unable to make it. We call him a member at large, but he is also the founder of the California V6 Task Force and also a co-chair for the IPv6 Forum. Let's see, our contacts here. We have Ed's email address. I can also be reached. I have some business cards that I can hand out to you with my contact information. And then, of course, we have our Twitter site and website, which has been recently updated. You may have noticed, or any of you that have been tracking efforts of the North American IPv6 Task Force and respective California Task Force or others may have noticed that, at least in California, things went a little bit quiet right around the time that Jim passed. And it was Jim's vision of getting these engineers together that reinvigorated our efforts earlier this year. And so you're going to be seeing a lot of changes, not only in the CAVC, the California Task Force entity and efforts, but also with NAV6TF as well. the bottom line is we can't be successful with this effort, bringing engineers together and driving IPv6 adoption in those enterprise and government agencies, specifically state, regional, local agencies, without your help and without educating our base and giving us the experience that we need. And it's with gogoNET that we're able to do that. So whether you're interested in participating in some of our labs, or if you know of resources that are available that you could also provide, whether it be people or, and like in our example, we have a couple of different data centers up in Sacramento that we use that have been donated by some of the local data center providers in that area. Or if you have the organizations that you work for, if there's opportunities there to work on events or to put together events where we can have more hands-on experience specifically with the folks in the field, it would be greatly appreciated. So I'd gone through the advocacy and, our initiation process. What we're trying to accomplish here is first, we're trying to advocate V6, and then more importantly, educate. The evangelism portion, thank you, Ed, for the You Gotta Believe Baby. And most importantly, the cool stickers that Ed had put together. There's one on my laptop back at the back. They may not be the sexiest stickers, but they sure communicate the very basic idea of our task force, drive you to the site and get you interested in what we're doing. So getting involved, you can attend V6 events. You'll see a lot of us see the task force involved in those events, both here in the Bay Area, up in Sacramento, and hopefully soon down in Southern California as we identify members down there. There's no cost. This is a volunteer organization. We all have our own for-profit jobs that we have to keep. So we do have times where getting things done takes extra hours, but we seem to somehow, through our relationships, get things accomplished. Of course, white papers, labs, and then there's always opportunities for committee membership and for you to volunteer. And thanks again to GoGo6 for your sponsorship, support, and what we expect is going to be a long-term and very successful relationship. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. So a recommendation for more consolidation of chapters rather than, and these are some of the things that we have discussed as committee chairs of the North American IPv6 Task Force at large. And we've had a number of calls that as a committee chair, and if you're interested in sharing and contributing those ideas, we absolutely encourage you to do so. This is the idea of forming the chapters is something that is just now in the works, or reforming them. So now is the opportunity to take that kind of advice to the table. And we will bring that up in the next call. So thank you for that. And you may see some changes as a result of that feedback. Thanks. Any other questions? All right, fantastic. Thank you very much.